Assalamualaikum. Let me say something most men won't admit to themselves after divorce. You're not trying to rebuild your life. You're trying to escape it. And the scary part is, you don't even realize you're doing it. You tell yourself you are thinking, you are processing, you are trying to understand what happened. But look at your actions. The moment things get quiet, you reach for your phone. The moment you sit down to work, you need background noise. Music, podcasts, YouTube, something playing. You cannot just sit and be. And here's the truth, you are not confused, you are avoiding yourself. If you are stuck, mentally scattered, constantly distracted, and you know you are not moving forward properly after divorce, download the Muslim Man Rebuild Playbook below. It's a 30-minute comeback protocol to reset your mind, your body, and reconnect you back to Allah with structure, not emotion. Let's be honest for a moment. A lot of men after divorce become very intellectual. They start analyzing everything. They want to understand why the marriage failed, why she behaved that way, why they feel like this, what they could have done differently. And on the surface, that sounds like growth. But in reality, it often becomes a trap. Because the mind can keep asking questions forever and it feels productive. It feels like you are doing something. But when you look at your life, nothing is actually moving. You're still stuck, still inconsistent, still distracted. You still can't sit down and focus deeply on one task. So, what's really happening? You're not thinking deeply. Instead, you are thinking endlessly. There is a difference. A man who is clear goes deep. He sits with one problem, one direction, one task, and he works through it. A distracted man jumps from thought to thought, from video to video, from idea to idea. And because the content he consumes sounds intelligent, he convinces himself he is progressing. But he's not. He's just feeding his mind more noise. And here is where I'm going to be very direct with you. Listening to podcasts while working, scrolling useful content, jumping into posts that feel insightful can become a very clean form of procrastination. It doesn't look like laziness. It looks like effort, but it produces nothing. And deep down, you know this. Because you sit down to work, then something suddenly pulls your attention. Then you justify it, then time passes, and the work is still there, unfinished, waiting. That is not a lack of knowledge. That is a lack of control. And until you fix that, no amount of understanding will save you. Here's the truth you need to hear. You don't need more answers right now. You need more discipline over your attention. Because your life will not change from what you know. It will change from what you consistently do. And the reason you keep losing control like this is not because you are weak. It's because you haven't faced what silence brings. Before divorce, there was structure, there was noise, there were people around, there was movement in your environment. Even if things weren't perfect, you were not constantly alone. But after divorce, everything changes. You go home and it's quiet. You sit down and there's no one there. No conversation, no distraction, no background life happening. Just you and your thoughts. And that's when it hits. The loneliness, the emptiness, the unanswered questions, the things you've been avoiding. And most men cannot handle that moment. So what do? They feel it immediately. Phone, scrolling, videos, music, podcasts, anything. Not because they are bored, but because they don't want to feel what's underneath. This is very important. You are not addicted to your phone. You are addicted to not feeling your life. Let it sink in, because this is where your power is leaking every single day. You cannot sit in silence. You cannot sit with your thoughts. You cannot sit with your emotions without reacting. So you train yourself to always escape. And over time, your ability to focus becomes weaker. Your emotional stability becomes weaker. Your connection with Allah becomes weaker, because you are never still long enough to reconnect. You mentioned something powerful. There was a moment where you sat quietly and you observed your thoughts without reacting. That is closer to real strength than hours of consuming content, because in that moment, you are not escaping. You are facing. And that is where real clarity comes from. Not from noise, not from endless input, but from stillness. If you cannot sit in silence, you cannot lead your life, because leadership starts internally. And if your internal world is constantly disturbed, you will always feel unstable. Now, here's the part most men don't want to accept. You already know what you need to do. You're just not doing it. Let's strip this down. If I ask you, what should you be doing right now to rebuild your life? Hey, you already know. You say it clearly. Sit in presence, exercise, eat properly, spend time with family, focus on your work. That's it. Simple. Not easy, but simple. So why is it not happening consistently? Because part of you is still waiting to feel ready, to feel clear, to feel motivated, waiting for some internal signal that says, okay, now I can move. But life doesn't work like that. Clarity does not come before action. Clarity comes from action. When you start moving, when you start focusing, when you start doing the uncomfortable things, your mind begins to settle. But if you sit there waiting to figure everything out first, you will stay stuck, because the mind will always generate more questions, more doubts, more scenarios. That is its job. Your job is to act despite that. And here's something most men need to hear. Closure. Closure is not something you wait for. It's something you create. You may never get all the answers you want. You may never fully understand everything that happened. And that's okay. Because your life is not waiting for perfect understanding. Your life is waiting for direction. And direction requires decision, not more thinking. You don't need to understand everything to move forward. You just need to stop delaying what you already know. Right now, you are standing between two versions of yourself. The first version keeps doing what he's doing now, scrolling, consuming, thinking. He keeps saying he's trying to figure things out, but nothing really changes. He stays mentally tired, emotionally unstable, spiritually disconnected, always busy, but never progressing. The second version decides to stop running. He allows silence. He sits with discomfort. He removes unnecessary noise. He stops pretending that distraction is healing, and he focuses on what actually matters. His religion, his body, his work, his responsibilities. And slowly, he becomes steady again. Not perfect, but grounded, clear, in control. You don't need a new strategy. You don't need more content. You don't need more answers. You need to stop escaping your own life. If this hit you, download the Muslim Man Review Playbook below. It's a simple 30-minute structure to reset your mind, regain focus, and reconnect back to Allah properly. If this resonated, subscribe and comment. I stop running.